in the World War I. The reason that I'm going to talk about it is because I was having a conversation with my friend and I realized that I know very little about it. And just from my own history lessons I had from like the secondary school, high school, what is it? Age 10 to 14, 15, 16. Uh, I think I think it will just benefit all of us. So what happened? The Battle of Gallipoli was a failed World War I campaign by Allied forces in 1915-1916 to seize the Dardanelles Seas route from the Ottoman Empire. I'm going to show that to you in a map so we'll have a better understanding about it in a minute. So, hello, my name is Aisha, and today I'm going to talk about the Battle of Gallipoli, which was a failed war or failed front in the World War I for the Anzacs, but it was a success, a victory for the Ottoman Empire. Why is it important to know about this? Because there's a few hundred people died there. Um, I think a few hundred from both sides, like from Anzacs and from the Ottoman Empire soldiers. So a friend of mine asked some questions, and I realized that I really don't know much about it. And let's read it. Let's just gonna read it and try to get some understanding. Before reading it, I think I should just show you the map. Wait there. So we'll have an understanding about what we're talking. Okay, so that is a map of Ottoman Empire. Let's just get it. So this rectangle is Turkey right now, loaded new Turkey, Republic of Turkey's soils. If I put it down there, maybe we'll be able to. I'm just holding this mic because it's just wrapping, but okay, I think I got it. Hey, you'll be very proud of me. I'm very proud of myself. So stay with me, don't go. So this is Gallipoli, this point. If we just like zoom in, you can understand the importance of it. This part is Istanbul. It says Constantinople. That part is Istanbul. And what this does is there's this two openings, two channels. One in here, Dardanelles, Gallipoli, and one through Istanbul. And that opens to Black Sea. And this is Russia. This part is Russia. And this is Balkans. So Winston Churchill was thinking, by breaking through this channel into the Dardanelles Sea, we call it Marmara, into Dardanelles Sea, he will conquer the capital of Ottoman Empire, then capital, and have supply routes to his own armies on the Russian fronts, and it will open up the channels to fight on different fronts. Okay, so that's why it was really important for Winston Churchill to gain access to that route. It was going to end the war a lot faster if he had the access to that, by conquering the capital of the Ottoman Empire and by providing supply channel to his own armies, opening up different fronts to fight with, especially the biggest source, Russia, biggest and the Ottoman Empire, right? Okay, so uh, um, let's read. But after after an initial naval attack, which was failed, Allied troops launched a land invasion, but were met with the Ottoman resistance, and they suffered heavy casualties. So they tried to go through with their ships, and they couldn't. Who is they? The Anzacs. Who is Anzac? The New Zealand, Australia, and British troops all together trying to go through the channel, and they failed. So they tried attacking on land, and then they the Ottoman soldiers were there, or the Ottoman resistance were there. They're like, I guess, the on the Ottoman front side, Ataturk was leading the troops, and he was known for his uh, strategic fights. Huh? So I guess it's if there were somebody else, and instead of Ataturk, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, probably Winston Churchill would win the victory of Gallipoli. Okay, the goal was to capture Istanbul. Well, it's interesting that it still says Constantinople, because it's not been Constantinople since the 1473. But interestingly, I guess these songs might be adding into it. Constantinople just is gone with the Byzantium, right? But Istanbul, or the Constantinople was the Ottoman Empire's capital, and it was going to open a sea route to Russia. Let's have a look at some other. The campaign was a military disaster for the Allies, right? With heavy casualties on both sides. Let's read something else. So I was thinking, like, somehow I had the impression that the Gallipoli was the only victory for the Ottoman Empire in the World War One, but it wasn't. There were like a small front victories, but there were two major victories. One was the Kut. The Ottomans besieged and defeated the British forces in Mesopotamia, and that was a major success. And Gallipoli was a major success. The after effects of Gallipoli war battle was Mustafa Kemal was really established his name as a great strategic leader in a battle, and then that gave him the recognition that he needed, probably, to gather himself an army for the Republic of Turkey's independence war. So let's see how many people actually died. People died in Gallipoli campaign. Approximately 131 soldiers died in the Gallipoli campaign, with Allied forces losing around 58,000 and Ottoman forces losing around 87,000. So the total number of casualties was much higher, estimated around 490,000 for the Allies, and nearly. Okay, it just gets really complicated. I mean, At the total, okay, let's put it in this way. It's gonna sound much better. At the total, it's like 130 and 131 people, soldiers died, and the casualties are around 490,000. This is like very big numbers. But when you look at the soldiers who died, Ottoman Empire lost more soldiers than the Allied forces. So Allied forces are being the New Zealand, Australia, and British Empire soldiers together. They they died about there around 58,000, but the Ottoman forces had 87,000 people who lost their lives. Uh, um, so I'm just saying, like, I'm just seeing these things. There are Irishmen as well in that soldier group, which is called Anzacs. Let's have a look at who is Anzacs. There's a really Who are Anzacs? Because initially I thought it was like New Zealand, Australia, and Australians and British soldiers, but this is just giving me something. Okay, the modern usage of the term Anzac uh, is to honor all Australians and New Zealanders who have served in any conflict or peacekeeping operation. For the Gallipoli, the corps is most famously remembered for its role in the Gallipoli campaign, which began with a landing on the Turkish peninsula on April 25th, 1915. The campaign resulted in heavy casualties and was a prolonged stalemate before the troops were evacuated. Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, called Anzac, was formed in Egypt in early 1915 by combining Australian and New Zealand troops to fight in World War One. The Anzac spirit the Anzac legend refers to the perceived qualities of endurance, courage, ingenuity, and mateship that soldiers exhibited during the war. Wow. So, and April 25th is observed annually as Anzac Day in both countries to remember the sacrifices of their soldiers. But I guess and the troops who fought in Gallipoli, they were Irish as well as French. There you go. What is the Anzac legend? Okay, the Anzacs on Gallipoli helped shape the Australian story. Once used to refer to those who fought in World War One, Anzac now represents all women and men who serve Australia. The term also expresses the characteristics that are seen as Australian, including courage, egalitarianism, endurance, mateship. The Anzac legend was born on the 25th of April 1915 when some 15,000 soldiers of the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps landed under fire on the shores of Gallipoli in modern-day Turkey. They were part of a hastily planned series of landings by a British Empire force of 75 troops from Britain, Ireland, and India, and troops from France and her dominions. Wow. Australia as a nation was only 14 years old. Oh my God, can you believe it? Before Federation in 1901, each of the current states of Australia was a British colony. At the time World War One broke out, the young nation's cultural and political ties to Britain were still strong. The Dardanelles campaign was the first time. Dardanelles campaign is the campaign to take over the channel, the Gallipoli channel, because that sea, the inland sea, is called in English the Dardanelles Sea, but it's in Turkish it's called the Marmara Sea, because that region is called Marmara. The Dardanelles campaign was the first time since the Second South African Boer War of 1899 to 1902 that Australian troops had been sent into battle. Shortly after the landing of Anzac called Gabatepe, those on the home front were reading about the worthy sons of the empire. So the Gallipoli campaign was 8 months. 8 months is about that, almost a year. It's almost a year. So I just want to close it here. But man, that's like, okay, let's just like wrap it up. The Gallipoli campaign was originally who were involved in this. Can I give it just like, there's about 75,000 troops from Britain, Ireland, India, troops from France and her dominion. The reason that the Australians and the New Zealanders were there, because they were still, like, Australia was only 14 years old, and they still had really strong ties with the Britain, because they were still British colonies. That's why they were involved. That's why they all came from that far. And there's about 450,000 casualties, around 130,000 people, soldiers died. And in those soldiers who were there, who passed away, most of them, like 87,000 just about, were the Ottoman Empire soldiers. So it's like a 58,000 were the Allies. Huh? But it was brutal. That is the reason, because that channel is so narrow and steep, and there are only a few places in that channel that the troops can come on the land or try to pass, because they couldn't pass through the sea. Oh my God. I mean, I'm just gonna stop this here. So I guess I'll show you a painting of the Anzac called, the site where the Anzac legend began. So this is how they looked. And also what we talked about is, we talked about it very briefly, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, and that's where his legend shined. And he then later, after the First World War I, set to establish an independence war to build or establish the Republic of Turkey. Okay. Something is just making noise. The reason that the Churchill really wanted to take that channel is to open up trade, open up routes for his troops, open up routes to the Black Sea, because Black Sea is quite important. There's Russia up there, and also there's the supply chains, and they can take the capital of Ottoman Empire. Wow, I never knew all of these like in this way, so I'm glad